Hello, welcome to News Centre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met eminent economists and sectoral experts to seek their views on the upcoming budget. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that measures to increase exports, land reforms and also the global trade situation was discussed. Methods to increase household savings, addressing rising household debt were also on the agenda. Economists urged the government to continue with the capex push in the union budget. They also gave their suggestions on structural reforms. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman was present in the meeting. So was CEA Anant Nageshwaran and the Vice Chairman of NITI Aayog as well. Remember, this has been an important year of reforms for the Narendra Modi government. We saw the major GST reform. We saw the Labour Code reforms as well, the Shanti Bill being launched. Let's see what 2026 has in store. Rajani Sinha, Chief Economist at CareEdge Group, joins us right now. Rajani Sinha, could you give us a sense of what the government needs to now turn its focus to after these 8 or 10 reform measures have been announced in 2025?
So, like you said, Parikshit, like you very rightly said, 2025, there were a lot of reforms that we saw in terms of the area of labor, new labor code, the GST reforms. So 2025 has been a good year. I would say now the focus should move to something which is more long-term, but is really required to push India to the next leap of growth. And I think that would be increased focus on R&D and innovation. So if you see India's spending on R&D is quite low at around 0.7% of GDP, as against 2.5 to 3% which you have for innovation-led economies. Private sector participation in R&D spending is again low at around 36%, whereas for some of the other innovation-led economies, it's as high as 70%. If you look at patent filings, it has gone up sharply in the last few years, but again, it's a very small fraction of the total global filings. So I think India has the best of brains, and the focus should be to inculcate culture of innovation in the economy. And I think this year's budget and going forward, the government should look at ways and means to increase R&D spending and innovation in the economy.
Right. Now, in terms of some structural reforms that India needs, would you say that India is in a position to carry out land reforms which have been long sought by the private sector, especially foreign companies?
So, talking about reforms, I think now the critical aspect will be whatever has already been done in 2025. I think two critical things that I would like to highlight, which would be important going forward. One will be how do we reap into our demographic dividend? And here what becomes important is that we have this large workforce. How do we employ them productively? How do we create enough jobs? How do we skill them adequately? So here, when it comes to skilling them adequately, the focus, there's already been a lot that's happening in terms of vocational education and skilling. The focus there should increase even more going forward. And in terms of, when it comes to job creation, what I feel is that the government needs to identify areas where there is scope for job creation. For instance, if you look at agriculture sector, there is it gives around 15 to 18% to India's GVA and employs around 44% of the workforce. So if the government can find ways to move people from agriculture sector to related industries like agri-processing or horticulture, floriculture, or encourage agri-exports, these are more value-added stuff, and the labor productivity will be higher in these areas. So ways to move labor from farm to these sectors, that would help. Similarly, in services sector, we are doing very well. Our services exports are doing very well. But, if we could find ways to diversify our services export, because right now it's focused on IT, ITS, and business consulting services. But if we could also encourage other services, like, say, tourism, where there's huge potential, that could also be a good way to absorb more workforce. So one, I would say, reaping into our demographic dividend. And the other important thing I feel is encouraging FDI in the economy. And that's where, something that you mentioned, say land reforms or easing regulations, improving ease of doing business will really help.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Rajani Sinha, for joining us with your views on what the government can do in 2026 in terms of next-gen reforms, improving the ease of doing business, and making sure that India has a more investment-friendly climate as well. Let's move on and get to the